Hurom H400 versus the H320, do you go with the new easy clean technology or do you stick with something that's more familiar? It really just boils down to this one thing. Either you like this one thing or you don't. And it's not an easy decision to make, but by the end, you should know exactly which juicer is right for you. Now, both the H400 and the H320 have about a 70 ounce or 2-liter hopper on them. That means these machines can make about 2.5 to 3 cups of juice at one time. Now, the Hurom H400 has something called Easy Clean. Easy Clean is this new breakthrough technology developed by Hurom engineers, and no other juicers on the market have this tech. Take a look at the H400 auger. You can pull it apart into 2 pieces like a Lego set. This does 2 things. 1, it makes your juicer scrubless. All you have to do is spray the parts with some water and you're done. 2, it makes the machine much faster to assemble. I was able to put the Hurom H400 together in just 12 seconds. Now, with the H320, there's a normal auger and juicing screen. And like I was saying, it's kind of the same old technology that you're familiar with. It has more parts, so that means it's going to be hard to clean and assemble. Now, the Hurom H320 takes about 30 seconds to put together, but that same old technology might not be such a bad thing, as I'll explain later. Now, both juicers have this mechanism underneath the juicing chamber that flips out. This lets you easily rinse out pulp from the machines for faster cleanup time. The Hurom H400 has a forward and reverse button on the back, while the H320 has one on the front. The H400 has a pulp container built into the back of the machine, which saves you more countertop space. And if you're looking to make sorbets, the H400 can do it without any extra attachments. But if you want to make sorbets with the H320, you're going to have to buy a separate add-on. Point to the H400 for being more simple and easy to work with. Now, we both agreed that a lighter and more compact juicer is always better. The Hurom H400 weighs about 14.8 pounds, while the H320 weighs about 13.7 pounds. Now, these aren't a huge difference compared to other machines on the market. Another thing to be aware about is the countertop space and your cabinet space. I found that both of these will fit under your kitchen cabinets, but depending on your setup, it might be a close call. If you got limited counter space, the H400 might be a better option because, like I mentioned, has that pulp container in the back. The H320, you need to have both your juice container and your pulp container on the countertop at the same time. I'll give this point to the H320 for being the lighter machine. Now imagine, it's the crack of dawn. Maybe your grumpy partner or kids are sleeping in the room next to you and you're about to make some fresh juice and your machine starts making these irritating squeaking noises. To keep your family from waking up, you want a juicer that's quiet, right? The H400 averages 60 decibels while the H320 averages about 64. To give you some context, your average blender is about 100 decibels plus, so both of these machines are pretty quiet. And if you don't pay attention to this next part, you're going to regret it, trust me. You want a juicer that's efficient, right? Well, with the rising cost of groceries, it's important your machine has a high juice yield. A high juice yield shows that your juicer isn't being wasteful and it's doing the best to squeeze out every last drop. To see which juicer gives you the better yield, I picked out 4 pieces of produce to measure: celery, ginger, oranges, and leafy greens. What we'll do is we'll set up a split screen so you can watch each machine as it performs. And before we get to the juice yields, I just want to let you know I've got links in the description for both of these juicers where you can get the best discounts available on the internet. To start, I measured 6 ounces of celery for both juicers. I loaded both of these machines up and let them rip. And you can see the hoppers chopping down the celery nice and easy. Now it's time to pour out the H400. We've got 132 milliliters of celery juice. And for the H320, we were able to squeeze out 113 milliliters of juice. Here's the squeeze test on the Hurom H400. And for the H320, it was harder to run a squeeze test because most of the pulp was stuck in the machine, but it turns out they were pretty similar. For ginger, I measured 1.3 ounces for each juicer. Let's toss them in the machines and let them work. So we've got 21 milliliters of juice for the Hurom H400, and for the H320, we were able to get 31 milliliters. Here's the squeeze test on the H400, and here's the squeeze test on the H320. So it looks like the H400 was bone dry compared to the H320. Next up is oranges. I measured out 8.5 for each machine and chucked them in. Flip the switch. That turns out to be 162 milliliters of juice for the H400, and for the H320, we were able to get 159. Here's the squeeze test on the H400, and here's the squeeze test on the H320. Both were pretty much as dry as it gets. Now we've got leafy greens. I used 2 ounces, which is about a half bag, and I let both machines run, and here's what happened. So we've got 28 milliliters of leafy greens for the H400, and for the H320, we've got about 33 milliliters. Here's the squeeze test on the H400. And I couldn't really do the squeeze test on the H320 because all the pulp was kind of like wrapped inside the auger, but it was much drier than any other machine I've tested. I was really impressed by that. So here's the final scorecard for both machines. The Hurom H320 is going to strain way more pulp out of your juice, and it also gives you better yields with ginger and leafy greens. So I'm going to give the W to the H320 for this one. I see so many people complain about this next part, so make sure you pay attention. I was able to clean the Hurom H400 in 1 minute and 6 seconds. And the H320 took 1 minute and 49 seconds. Now, spending an extra 43 seconds with the H320 doesn't seem like a deal breaker, but after washing your juicer over 100 times, it's going to get old real fast. The H400 was much faster to clean, so point to the H400. But neither of these machines are perfect, and they don't come without their drawbacks. The H400 is lightning fast to clean, but it does make a more pulpier juice. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of pulp. It's actually healthier for you. The fiber from the pulp has been shown to prevent things like cancer, decrease your risk of chronic illness, and promote a healthier immune system. But some people don't like that. And if that's you, if you prefer something that doesn't have that much pulp, then you're going to want to go with the H320. The H320 uses the same old juicing tech, which is really efficient at extracting pulp out of the juice. But the only drawback to that is that it's going to be much harder to clean compared to the H400. If you don't scrub your juicing screen thoroughly, you can get small specks of pulp that build up over time, and it can decrease your yield as time goes on. With the H400, you don't have to worry about that. Now, you can batch juice with each machine. Both hoppers are the same size, and the yields are pretty similar, so it really just boils down to one thing: pulp. If you can't stand having slightly pulpier juice, then go with the H320. If you don't mind a little bit of pulp and you like the idea of being able to clean your juicer lightning fast, then go with the H400. Personally, that's the one I prefer. No matter which one you go with, I've got links in the description for both machines that are updated with the best discounts on the internet, so be sure to check those out.